We end tonight with another update from the redevelopment of Union Square. Reporter Iris Moore digs into one of the biggest issues, the Community Benefits Agreement. She started at a recent meeting.
On January 14th, the mayor and members of the community joined the Union Square Civic Advisory Committee at Argenziano School to discuss Union Square redevelopment and affordable housing.
This is the greatest crisis, I think, to our long-term viability, and we're going to need some bold moves.
Among those present were members of Union United, a coalition of neighbors, nonprofits, labor groups, and other stakeholders led by the Somerville Community Corporation.
Community members can say lots of things, and that's exciting, and how do you sift through, find what the priorities are, and how is the developer then going to be held accountable to represent those priorities?
And the community will also give input when the process matures enough that we lend to ourselves to community benefits agreements as well, but specifically to what we build. That'll be our plan. How much square footage, how much housing, how many jobs, the ratio between jobs and so forth we want to accomplish.
A CBA is a community benefits agreement where a developer makes certain promises. Union Square master developer US2 has agreed to sign one. Increasingly used in cities across the country, CBAs are a way of making sure that communities derive certain benefits from large-scale developments. Following the mayor's address, the Union Square Civic Advisory Committee began an open discussion about housing and other issues. Union United members present expressed concerns about the decision-making process for months ahead, partly because the CAC's members were all handpicked by City Hall.
How can we ensure collaboration and transparency?
One is I hope that someone from Union United will apply to be on this committee, for one thing.
Union United and others are especially worried about the Community Benefits Agreement. According to the recently signed Master Development Agreement, Union Square's CBA will be negotiated between developer US2 and City Hall. But many are concerned that community members won't get a say in the agreement. Van Hardy is an SCC board member and an active member of Union United.
We want the community to be at the table, and we want to hold the developers accountable for the decisions that are made at the table. We've been hearing from members of the CAC and from the city is that they want to hold off on a CBA until the plans are already developed, which is closing the door after the horse has left the barn.
But City Hall has a different idea about who will do the negotiating and when.
We're involved in this planning process now, which I think what you'll see sometime in March is you'll see some very preliminary plans and design concepts be put forward by US2. Beginning in the summertime, you'll begin to see some concrete negotiations as to what should be in the benefits agreement. So I think we want to take dialogue and discussion and ideas from everyone, but at the end of the day, we will look to the CAC as the voice of the community to try to formulate their recommendations as to what the most important items are. But at the end of the day, again, it will be a formal agreement between the master developer and the city, representing not only just the folks in Union Square, but the city as a whole. Whatever benefits agreement we finally arrive at has to benefit everyone in the city.
But not all CBAs are negotiated with cities. Tufts University professor Penn Lowe has extensive background and experience in community benefits agreements.
CBA stands for Community Benefits Agreement, and I did a bit of looking into CBAs as a strategy for communities to gain some control over development. I do a lot of work with community-based organizations in Boston and in Somerville around how residents can really gain some benefits out of development and really to promote development without displacement. Gentrification has been a huge concern of a lot of groups given the high cost of housing and all the new development that continues in our area. So Community Benefits Agreement basically is a legally enforceable agreement that's made between a set of community groups directly with the project developer. It's legally enforceable because if one of the parties does not comply with that agreement, the other one can take them into court. I should mention that a CBA requires that both parties make commitments. So in the case of a community benefits agreement between community and developer, obviously we highlight oftentimes only what the developer promises to give the community, right? Whether that be promises around amounts of affordable housing that are built, perhaps contributions to open space and parks, mitigating environmental impacts, even supporting small businesses, providing good jobs. I mean, these are all the typical types of things we think of that the developer provides. But the community that agrees to this also is giving the developer something. And what they're giving the developer is a promise to support the project.
When in the development process would be the best time to negotiate a CBA?
Yeah, because a CBA does require the community to give something, which is support during the permitting processes. It's really important that CBAs are agreed to before those approvals are made, because that's when the community actually has leverage in terms of offering their support to the project, and that's before the project has really been solidified in terms of what it's going to finally be.
Who should be at the table when a CBA is negotiated?
As with any contract, the devil's always in the details. And the first detail of a CBA to pay attention to is who are the actual parties that sign it. And I think the best outcome for community groups is that their coalition actually is the entity that signs the contract. In that way, then, if the contract is not being fulfilled, there's an accountability chain that they can directly use. There's been numerous examples now of what a lot of folks have called kind of watered down CBAs, where elected officials have negotiated agreements or city agencies have negotiated agreements in ways that have not been inclusive and have not really represented the full range of voices in the community. And communities at the end of the day are, in those cases, have felt really left out and not had their interests really fully represented. If you have a public official or a city agency make the agreement, then you have to, as a community organization, go through yet another layer of accountability. So if the developer isn't performing and fulfilling the promises under the CBA, then you don't have a direct means of trying to enforce that agreement.
The Civic Advisory Committee has a few seats open. If you're interested in being considered, please go to the City Hall website and learn more. Then apply. The deadline's Thursday, February 5th. Go to somervillema.gov and check under Latest News.